Welcome to the Success Sensei podcast for anyone interested in success, happiness, and balance. We'll teach you how to be a black belt at life. And now, your host, former professional fighter, multiple world champion, entrepreneur, and investor, Robert Devane.
This is Roundhouse Rob, the Success Sensei, helping you to win at life one kick and punch at a time. Today I'm talking about 10 success lessons from my Doorman years. And this is episode 207. Welcome to the main event.
It's the Success Sensei podcast main event.
10 success lessons from my Doorman years. I could have listed a hell of a lot more than 10. These are just the 10 that I suppose I thought about straight away when I thought about doing this episode. And some of them are probably broken down into a couple of subsections. So there could actually be more than 10. But I'm sure that they can benefit you if you listen to them and you take the lessons from them. I'm sure that you'll be able to relate as well. And you don't have to make your own mistakes. It's handier if you learn from other people's mistakes. So some of them are positive, some of them are negative. Doorman, by the way, I know that term, maybe it's outdated. Door personnel, security advisor, maybe it's totally changed. Doorman is a sexist term because it's implying that there's just men working the door, and there certainly wasn't in my day. There was plenty of women and very good at the job as well, I might add. Which brings us on to the next bit. Some door personnel are good, some are bad. I think a lot get a bad reputation, deservedly or not. You know, the jury's out on that one. But I worked as a door supervisor for 16 years approximately, and I worked in city centre. I worked in various locations, various busy clubs. I also broke the unwritten rule of working by myself, a lone door person in a location, in a suburb location, which wasn't great because when people were refused, they had nowhere else to go. So they were invariably more interested in staying and fighting you on the point. So that's a rule of never work by yourself at the door. But I mean, I think I broke that rule for about, 6 years or something like that. So I have a lot of experience as a door person. I suppose the biggest difference for me was I'd never any interest in getting involved in it. I didn't want to do it. It didn't interest me to do it. Why did I start it? Well, basically it was a handy part-time job to give me some extra money to be able to go abroad to compete in martial arts, which is all that I wanted to do. And having not a strong leaving cert, not a strong academic qualifications behind me at the time, it was very easy to do it as part-time work, and I suppose the money was good back then as well. So these are what I've learned. I've learned a lot of lessons, but here's ones that maybe you can use. Okay, let's just get straight into it because I'm dying to get stuck into it. Right, number one. Work isn't really work, and certainly doesn't appear to be like work, doesn't feel like work when you're working with your friends. The time passes so much quicker. So in any environment, these aren't all true for just, nightclubs and pubs and places like that. If you're working with people that you admire, you respect, and you like being around, it won't be like work. It will be a hell of a lot more fun. Oh, it'll be serious as well, but it will be a hell of a lot more fun. So, to you, what does that mean to you? It means get your dream team around you. It means if you have your own business, if you're doing your own investments, if you're a customer, try to deal with people that you like, people that you enjoy spending time with, because you're going to be spending time with a lot of people and a lot of professionals in your life going forward, whether solicitors, accountants, advisors and mentors and teachers. Try to get ones that you like because it's going to make everything easier for you and for them. So working with friends, it doesn't seem like work. Number two, a little bit of a negative one now. Here we go. So the opposite is you cannot trust everyone to have your back. You didn't always know who was going to back you up if a physical altercation took place in the nightclub. You didn't always know. And it wasn't necessarily the ones that would look like they'd have your back or would certainly talk the talk and not walk the walk. The ones that would been constantly talking about their bravery and bravado in fights, and then when something actually occurred and you need their help, they weren't around, or they certainly didn't operate to the extent that you hoped and thought they were going to, based on the information that they've been falsely spewing. So you cannot trust everyone to have your back, and it can be hard to figure out, which brings us on to number 3. The art of reading people is a very useful skill in all aspects of life. So when you're standing on a nightclub door and you have to analyse people and the potential threat that they could have to your other customers or to the establishment in general, you get very, very used to reading people. Hang on, I'll put that on mute. So it's a good skill to develop. You develop it pretty quick as well when people are confronting you aggressively, and just watching people in general. It is a job based on people watching. So I know a lot of people like people watching as a hobby, and I think it's an absolutely super skill to have in all aspects of life, because you really tune into your gut instinct. Right, number 4. Working in an industry is not the same as enjoying being a customer. What the hell do I mean by that? I mean something I've touched on before. Many people decide to set up a business because they enjoy the subject matter. And running a business is totally different to enjoying the thing that you've created a business out of. And it's not the same. So you might love nightclubs, but standing on the door of a nightclub or being inside, waiting for physical altercations to happen, or waiting to, stop people injuring themselves with glasses, or, looking out for open drug taking, is not the same as enjoying being a customer in a nightclub. So that's across the board with all businesses. Beware of setting up a business just because it's something that you love. It won't cross over. It's not the same thing. So working in an industry is not the same as enjoying being a participant or a customer in that industry. Number 5, be confident even when you're not. So obviously you can think about that one. Being a doorman, if you're underconfident in certain situations, it's going to go against you. But people like people who are confident. They're attracted to people who are confident, who are positive, who are happy, who are self-assured, not arrogant, not cocky, not crossing over. But if you had a business proposal, or if you were looking for lending or funding, and you weren't confident, or you weren't positive, or you weren't a happy, upbeat person who was, self-assured and could deliver what they're saying they're going to deliver, your statistics of actually getting that person on board is a hell of a lot more slim. So be confident even when you're not. It's all right if you're nervous on the inside, but project positivity and confidence. Number 6. If people believe you to be fair, then they'll accept you being firm. So when it's time to make a decision, when it's time to, I suppose, reprimand or correct an error or point out, whoa, listen to that rain. Can you hear that rain? Anyway, we keep going. The rain's not going to stop us. When it's important to, I suppose, just talk about our approach a negative subject with somebody, i.e. you're not going into the nightclub, you're too drunk, or stop spilling your drink on the nightclub floor, or anything like that. At any area of life, if you're known for being fair, people will accept you being firm. You've heard the expression before, firm but fair. If you state your case up front, very clear, very logical, it's not ego-based, people will accept it a hell of a lot easier. So number 7, my Irish compadres probably won't be happy with this one, but it must be said, and it's a definite one, and that is drinking excessively is a waste. You can't possibly work in the environment of a pub or a nightclub and not experience negative aspects to drinking. Now notice I said excessive. Now I'm not much of a drinker anyway, so possibly I could be biased, but I did stick in that word excessively. I'm sure if you're able to handle occasional drinking, that's fine. But in nightclub environments and pub environments, excessive drinking to the point of getting sick or making bad decisions or, being really hungover or depressed and realizing the amount of money that it has cost you to get to that point, is excessive. And if you want to be successful and you're regularly excessively drinking, do you think it's going to be a hindrance or not? Sure, of course it's going to be. So that's number 7. Number 8, being able to handle verbal confrontation. That's a very valuable skill, especially, staying calm and being still able to deliver your point effectively without your emotions completely taking over and bubbling up. It's easier said than done. Working in that kind of an environment helps you to be able to deal with verbal confrontation because it happens nearly every single night. So you have to be able to breathe, to be calm within your mind and to be able to deliver your point and be able to react effectively. And if you're highly charged, you can't react effectively because already reaction is slower than someone can perform an action. So you need to have a calm mind and a cool head to be able to not reduce the speed of your reaction, to be able to reaction in the fastest speed possible. And when I say reaction, obviously as a martial artist, I'm talking about being able to physically defend yourself, but I'm talking about verbally reacting to someone else's verbal action. So it doesn't just necessarily have to be a, physical thing. Which brings us on to number 9, and that is fighting is always the very last option. So when you're working in a security environment, you've failed if you've gotten to a fight. Or certainly the processes have failed. It's what you want to avoid. It's great being able to handle yourself. It's great being able to fight. It's great in having the confidence in your physical ability. But you should be doing your utmost for yourself and for the sake of your opponent, not to get to a physical situation. If that happens and it was completely unavoidable, well, was it completely unavoidable? That's a question that you ask yourself afterwards. But if it was completely unavoidable and you can be guilt-free about the scenario, it's nice to be able to defend yourself. But it brings us on to number 10, because that number 9 kind of rolls into number 10. And it's the ability of keeping your ego in check, because winning or losing isn't clear-cut. Generally, number 1, it's about surviving. And then generally number 2, it's about minimizing injury to yourself. And then number 3, it's about minimizing injury to your opponent. So overall, the best way to achieve all 3 of those is not to have gotten into a physical altercation. So being able to keep your ego in check, not rising, not giving into name calling, not letting that affect you, not giving into someone calling you out, because that can happen a lot when you're in a security environment. And violence, this is another thing. Violence isn't enjoyable. Competing can be enjoyable. Competitive fighting, professional fighting can be enjoyable. But violence isn't enjoyable. Having to do things that you don't want to do. As I said, suffering from guilt. If you're not completely guilt-free that you could have avoided the scenario. Witnessing certain things. The constant circle of violence. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't necessarily end at that physical altercation. It can keep going around and around. It can involve your loved ones. It can involve other people. It can be a constant recurrence. You're always, when you're on the door, you've always got a mild level of adrenaline running through your body. You've always got slight nerves because you don't know what's going to happen. So keeping your ego in check is number 10. Do you want me to go through them again? Will I go through them real quick? Okay, number 1 was working with people who are friends. Makes it not like work, I suppose. Number 2, you cannot trust everybody to have your back. Number 3, the art of reading people is very useful in all aspects of life. Number 4, working in an industry is not the same as enjoying being a customer of that industry. Number 5, being confident even when you're not. Number 6, if people believe you to be fair, then they'll accept you being firm. Number 7, drinking excessively is a waste. Number 8, having the skill to be able to handle verbal confrontation. Number 9, fighting is not always the first option. It should always be the very last option. And number 10, being able to having the ability and being able to keep your ego in check. So that's the 10 things I've learned from being a doorman. I know I said at the start a doorman could be a sexist term in general, but me being a man and I worked on the door, I personally was a doorman for years. I hope that you can benefit from any of that information or just trigger a thought. You know what I'm always saying? If I just trigger a thought in your mind, a positive thought, or help you get a little bit of momentum. I nearly invented a new word, momentum and motivation combined. It was a bit of a Frankenstein of a word, but if I can give you a bit of momentum and I can give you a bit of motivation and you can learn from any of those, or you can attribute them or make a comparison to the lessons that you've learned in life and in your experience, then I'm happy. You don't have to actually stand on the door for 16 years to have learned some of those lessons that hopefully I've conveyed in a manner that makes them easy enough to understand. Hit me up anytime, message me on the successsensei.com. Thank you for listening. I'm Roundhouse Rob, the Success Sensei. Life is a fight you can enjoy and win. Bowing out.
This has been the Success Sensei, fighting the winning fight. So add us, subscribe, like, and comment. Keep those hands up and keep moving forward.